We lost somebody?
He had to go calm some stuff. He said he was fine with us. Go ahead and start with that.
Who's Mr. Harris?
I'm sorry?
Is Mr. Harris also coming back?
Mr. Harris. Oh, yes. This guy. I heard Richard Harris, and I'm thinking of,
Oh, the actor?
yes, another part of my life has nothing to do with this, but
you like-
Richard Harris
you
got a
like-
nomination, and
You like musical theater?
I'm not going to comment on that. That's a vote of the public judge.
Well, Maddox does.
All right, now let's be adequately serious. All right, so Mr. Kilgore's stepped away to do some filing, which is fine for, because Mr. Lumpkin, you've been taking this portion as first chair. I just want to make sure the defendant was fine with Mr. Kilgore stepping away from and he's nodding his head yes, and thank you for that.
I just checked with him, he's fine, Judge.
Okay, so everything's good. All right, we're ready to resume. We have cross-examination now. Detective Murphy, Detective, I would remind you that you're still available.
Yes, ma'am.
Got just brief redirect.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I actually knew that, I hadn't known that. Sort of.
Quite all right, Judge. It's been a busy couple of days, I know. All right, Detective Murphy, I want to talk about some of the more recent things that were brought up. In other words, let's start with some of the things that were brought up today before I backtrack with you. So first of all, there were some questions posed today about child abuse and about some of the charges in the successive warrants. And to bring us to the topic, the initial search warrants involved cruelty in the first versus cruelty in the second in some of the subsequent search warrants, correct?
Yes.
Okay. To get to that point, you were asked questions about child abuse. The term child abuse, would it cover both of those charges?
Yes.
In other words, it could be child abuse under Georgia law to either commit cruelty in the first or cruelty in the second. There's separate charges depending on the elements of the offenses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I noted in my notes, our notes, for your testimony specifically for search warrant 0633. If you will, take a look at your notes for 0633. You were asked a line of questioning this morning about whether there was any discussion about conversations the defendant had with extramarital affair individuals on the day of. Do you remember having that discussion?
Yes, sir.
And looking back at your notes, what did you see regarding your testimony to Judge Hicks regarding 0633 in particular, and what did you share with him?
I shared with the judge that Mr. Harris had claimed he was happily married. However, he'd messaged other women making sexual comments, comments he had made the day of and prior to the incident.
Okay. You included evidence that you had learned about conversations the defendant had that day since the first battery of search warrants?
Yes.
Okay. 0635, can you identify what item that pertained to and where specifically that was recovered?
The MacBook Pro laptop, and that was recovered from the residence. 1212 Windsridge Circle.
And is that the one that you actually did some analysis on?
Yes, sir.
Looking at the substance of what you found on that computer, was there anything that you located on there to indicate that the defendant was using that computer as opposed to his wife?
No, everything that I saw appeared to be from a female, which would have been his wife.
Including the text messages and the content?
Yes, sir.
I want to clarify about the scope of your search for that particular device. We'll stay on that device for a moment. When you were exploring the content of the text messages, were you also looking for some of the things described in the search warrant, such as content involving marital issues, child issues, and financial issues?
Yes.
You were asked this morning about search warrant 0844. And I want to, can you get your copy of that, or if you need, I can get the state's exhibit. You have it in front of you?
Oh, give me 1 second. Yes, I have it.
Okay. You correctly corrected yourself about something that the magistrate judge had done in this case regarding the search warrant itself. Which judge were we talking about?
That was Judge Inman.
Judge Inman. And on the search warrant, the defense pointed out that there was a portion that was actually removed from the search warrant, though it remained in your affidavit. Do you recall that?
Correct. It was communications with other people on the days leading up to and the incident date.
Great. So my follow-up to you is, looking at the search warrant affidavit, did she remove your ability to search for all communications or just communications from that day or leading up to it?
She just removed the part with the communications on that day and leading up to it.
Specifically,
Yes.
looking at the search warrant itself, can you just point out and read the portion for the court on search warrant ending 08?
Home Depot had custody of that was his work computer up until March of 2014.
Did the search warrant still authorize you to look for historical emails and communications that may have shown difficulties between the defendant, his wife, the child, and financial issues?
Yes.
For this particular search warrant, and there was another one that was used to obtain it, where specifically was this item of evidence recovered from, and who did it belong to?
Home Depot.
And was it collected from the chiefs?
Yes.
For this particular search warrant, and there was another one that was used to obtain it, where specifically was this item of evidence recovered from, and who did it belong to?
Home Depot.
And was it collected from Home Depot corporate office?
Yes, Home Depot corporate office at 2455 Paces Ferry Road, Atlanta.
Similar line of questioning regarding search warrant 0641. Do you have your copy of 0641 by chance in front of you?
Just give me a second.
0641 by chance in front of you?
Just give me a second. Yes, I do.
Okay. Looking at 0641, first question, what was the subject matter that was sought pursuant to that search warrant?
The HR records regarding Justin Harris.
And on whom or what entity was that search warrant executed to get those HR records?
It's Home Depot corporate headquarters at 24 Justin Harris.
And on whom or what entity was that search warrant executed to get those HR records?
It's Home Depot corporate headquarters at 2455 Paces Ferry Road.
Were those records ever recovered from the defendant's possession, his house, or his vehicle?
No.
In whose possession were those records actually in prior to execution of the search warrant?
Home Depot corporate.
There have been a number of search warrants that you testified about over the past couple of days. If the defendant had only had one laptop and one cell phone on him initially, would that have impacted the number of search warrants you sought and obtained in this case?
Yes, it would have. We would have only had to gotten the that phone and that laptop, not a whole vehicle full of electronics.
Okay. And if you gained new information from having obtained those initial two items that necessitated you getting subsequent warrants to expand the scope, would the number of those supplemental search warrants been limited as well?
Yes, it would have been limited to just those two items.
And why is it that we have so many in this particular case for all of the items that you testified about for the past 2 days?
There's a large number of electronics and internet devices, such as computers and that type of thing.
Consistent with that, is there anything about the defendant's statement to Detective Stoddard that you reviewed that indicated that he had an affinity for electronics as opposed to somebody who might not be as electronically savvy, to say?
He worked as a web designer. He worked with electronics and computers.
The term homicide that we've used throughout your testimony the past couple of days, would that include intentional as well as neglect homicides?
Yes, it would.
You didn't limit in your search warrant, whether you were, in any of these search warrants, whether you were calling a homicide malice murder versus felony murder. It would encompass both of those. Would you agree?
Yes.
And the instances where the code section cited, you cite 1651. To your knowledge, the 1651 contained both of those, and now after it's actually got an additional type of murder that was not in play at the time. Is that correct?
Yes.
There was some questioning that was posed yesterday about obtaining search warrants and why you have obtained them so quickly. Can you articulate for the court and for this record whether there's a concern about the timely obtaining and execution of search warrants in a homicide investigation?
Well, you don't want to lose evidence such as at the residence, things of that nature. We don't know who's at the residence until we get there. And there's a time restraint on wanting to get there and recover this evidence.
At the point of the initial investigation, the initial obtaining of the search warrants on the 18th and 19th, were you even clear whether a single person might be charged, or could there have been other people that might have been involved?
We didn't know if it was one person or multiple people involved.
Okay. And was that a factor that you thought about in determining whether you wanted to, in a timely fashion, obtain search warrants for the vehicle, the home, and electronic devices?
Yes,
to
it
at least
was.
seize them?
Yes, it was.
There was some questioning posed about, I believe this was yesterday, about what information you had about certain devices and videos and news clips that could have been watched. Did the defendant, when you went back and reviewed his statement, limit in his statement what device he could have used to view any of those things, or did he say one way or another?
He did not limit, just simply say that he had viewed it.
Having said that he viewed news reports and clips of deaths in car, did you know at the time of the obtaining of these search warrants which particular device he had viewed that on, or could it have been any of them?
It could have been any of them.
Did he specify, do you recall, during his interview that you subsequently watched, whether the news report was something he saw on TV versus a news report that could be viewed online by way of a news clip or something like that?
He did not.
Could that have been viewed on any of the devices that you obtained search warrants for?
Yes.
For search warrant 0605 in particular, I want to talk about your dialogue that was played regarding the judge. There was a question, or a colloquy, I'll say, between you and the judge about what you believed versus what you could prove at that time. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And describe for the court what that colloquy was and why you were careful to talk about what you could prove at that time versus what you believed.
Judge Inman had questioned the cruelty in the first charge and mentioned, was it under malice? And I stated, no, it wasn't. And she questioned me if I believed there was malice. And I stated, yes, I did. I believed that it possibly was involved, malice was involved in it.
Were you also careful, though, to limit at that time the testimony about what he had been currently charged with versus what you believe you might be able to eventually show?
Yes.
And describe, if you will, in your own words, I know the court heard that recording yesterday, but just describe in your own words what it is you were attempting to do when you were talking to the judge about that.
I'm sorry, specifically about
About what he was charged with at that time versus what you believe.
I was just explaining to her that, he was being, at that time, charged with cruelty in the first and a homicide. And I was describing what the homicide was in relation to the cruelty charge. And she brought up the malice, and I simply said that, yes, as referring to, I believe there was malice involved, and left it at that and explain any further to her.
Almost done with the redirect on you. I've got just a couple more questions. Yesterday, you were asked some questions about the June 19th testimony about the series of search warrants that were obtained. Do you recall in 0605 getting oral testimony about the research that had been done, including deaths in cars, both of animals and also children?
Yes.
And was that incorporated for all of the search warrants that were obtained on that particular day?
Yes, it was.
You were asked whether you attempted to find any videos or news reports yourself about deaths in cars, the dead cars. Had you done that, absent receiving these search warrants, would you have been able to tell whether the defendant viewed that particular video clip or not?
No, I would not.
What was the only way to determine which specific video clip he might have seen to the exclusion of others?
Go into the devices and find it.
Is it possible to know definitively what evidence is on a device or in a crime scene or otherwise until you first obtain the search warrant?
No, you don't know what's going to be there until you obtain the search warrant and actually go and look.
I think that's all I have for you.
Just briefly, are you suggesting that you cannot investigate a crime scene without a search warrant?
No, you can't investigate a crime scene without a search warrant.
Okay. And you can investigate other people related to a crime scene without a search warrant?
Yes, you can.
And you can investigate electronic devices without a search warrant as to what they are and what they do?
As just researching what they can do?
Sure, that's a good word.
I'm sure you can research and see what they can do prior to the search warrant.
Okay. And you can talk to other individuals, and in fact, if it's a normal citizen who's not been charged, you can just walk up to them and start talking to them about questioning what they might or might not have seen or looked at or watched, correct?
Yes.
And when Mr. Harris was interviewed, he could have been asked, now, this news show, what news show are you talking about? He could have been asked that, correct?
I could have.
Okay. In fact, you don't really know what he was asked because you weren't even there to see the interview itself, correct?
I was not involved in the interview.
This researching word just came to you from somebody who was watching it that passed along to you before you went to get the search warrants.
Yes.
And this timeliness of obtaining evidence to prevent loss of evidence. You do not have one scintilla of evidence that there was going to be any loss of evidence in this case at the time that you went to get a search warrant, correct?
I'm sorry.
The question has come that you need to timely get a search warrant so that there's no destruction of evidence.
Yes.
Okay. We understand that happens in some cases, particularly drug cases. We see it a lot where someone might be obtained destroying drugs or destroying records of drug transactions, things of that nature, correct?
Yes.
But this case was a very unique case because you're dealing with a child that died in a car, and the only person who was with him you have in custody, correct?
Correct. The only person that was with him was in custody.
Very good. And you had not one scintilla of evidence that there was any other piece of evidence out there that could be destroyed.
We didn't know at the time if anybody else was involved with it or not.
Right. And nothing prevented you from investigating it, did it?
No, we were investigating it.
Right. And your way of investigating was to go get a bunch of search warrants and get in somebody's house and somebody's life, correct?
We acquired search warrants to search the residence, yes.
Right. And search every electronic device you could find just to see what may be going on in his life, correct?
We searched it based on Mr. Harris's statements and the evidence we had in the case.
Well, actually, you didn't do it based on his statements. You did it based on some unknown detective statement saying that he researched something when in fact he never did research, correct?
Using my term of research as gaining information, he did.
You're right. Using your terminology. You never bothered to explain to the magistrate your terminology of what you mean by research, correct?
During my testimony, they never asked.
You didn't ask. Did you think that the magistrate was using a normal English definition of research when he heard you use that word?
I don't know what kind of definition they would have used.
Okay. But if you're using something specific to you, don't you think that would be helpful to tell the magistrate that here's what I mean when I'm using this term?
They never asked what I meant by research.
You asked a question about the substance of the MacBook Pro analysis.
Yes, sir.
In looking through all that, at least 10 hours worth, I think you guesstimated, you never found one single piece of evidence that supported a theory that Mr. Harris had intentionally done anything to harm his child on that day, correct?
Through that computer? No, I did not.
Thank you.
A couple follow-ups from that.
Yes.
Cross. Did the defendant's statement link his child to his home prior to the child's death on the date of the crime?
Yes, he did. He stated that they left the house to go to Chick-fil-A.
And did he provide a timeline to you and Cobb County Police Department during that interview about that you shared with the magistrate court judges?
Yes.
You were asked about being able to question somebody like a defendant. Must you cease the questioning if the person asks for a lawyer as the defendant did in this case?
Yes, if they asked for a lawyer, you stop the interrogation or questioning.
Similarly, if a wife refused to speak with a lawyer, retain counsel, might that impact your ability to continue to speak with them?
Yes, it would.
All right, thank you.
But that hadn't happened when he was talking about watching news reports happen.
No, I had not.
Thank you.
Anything further? Witness can stand there. Proceed to the defense. Now proceed to the defense. I'm sorry.
I think the state may have another witness or two. Good, Judge.
Sorry.
You do have one.
Off the
I know you're
baton.
usually be talking the whole time I'm here, but I'm trying to take it a little bit.
I was just handing off the baton to Sam. I apologize.
Thank you.
Judge, just for the purposes of some issues regarding things alleged in the defense's motion, we're going to call Ray Yeager.
Come on.
So if you'll take a second seat, remain standing.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give before which you have been able to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Sir, if you could please introduce yourself to the judge by telling her your name.
My name is Ray Yeager.
Can you spell that for the court reporter so he gets it?
Yeager.
And where do you work currently?
Currently, I'm a reserve police officer with Cobb County Police Department.
And what's your job there? What do you do as a reserve officer?
I do administrative details for the police department to keep from having to bring officers in off the road.
Did you formerly work for Cobb County Police before becoming a reserve officer?
I did. I worked for Cobb County for 13 years, the last 7 of which I was in the high-tech crime squad doing investigations into computer crimes and also digital forensics for the entire department.
So is it okay if I refer to you as Detective Yeager?
That's
Kinda
fine.
have it? Okay. And Detective, there's no jury here, and we're here for a specific purpose, so I'm going to ask you just some preliminary questions about your background
Sure.
and becoming a high-tech investigator. Did you start out in law enforcement?
I did not. I spent 33 years in information technology profession prior to coming into law enforcement. However, concurrent with that, I spent 21 years with the City of Miami Beach Police Department as a reserve police officer there.
And did you leave Miami and come to Cobb County to work full-time as a police officer or detective?
I did.
And what type of work did you do working with technology, both in Miami and the police, as it relates to law enforcement?
As it relates to law enforcement, I've been involved in doing forensics on any kind of digital device, meaning computer, mobile devices, GPS, game systems, things of that nature, any electronic digital device.
And over the course of those many years, I'm not calling you old, but have you had any training specific to forensically examining and acquired data and evidence from computers, cell phones, and technology?
Yes, I've had training on Encase product, which is a forensic software product for computers, also FTK, as well as Cellebrite, which is a forensic software package for mobile devices, as well as other mobile device packages. And I've had that training through software vendors, the creators of those products, as well as through the Secret Service and the FBI.
Have you ever, can you even estimate to the judge how many cases you've been involved with over the years regarding analyzing and gaining evidence from technology?
I would say there's probably in the realm of 500 cases that I've analyzed over the course of the 7 years I was in there.
Okay. And during the 7 years you were in there, were you ever called to testify?
I was.
And was that both in federal court and state court?
Yes, it was.
Could you tell the judge a little bit about the high-tech unit and what your general responsibilities were there?
We are a support unit for the entire police department. If any officer encounters a device during the course of an investigation that they have seized and have proper documentation in terms of search warrant or consent, we then take that device into our unit, and we will then analyze the device. Depending on the device, we'll go through a procedure of which we have standard procedures for different devices within our unit.
And depending on the case, and I guess the level of the investigation and what you're actually, the search warrant's calling for, do you sometimes actually just acquire information and the evidence and turn it over to the detectives, and are there times where you actually do a preliminary or some type of search of the evidence that you found on the computer?
Depending on the case, we will do some searching ourselves within our unit, but since we're not intimately involved with the circumstances of the case and the individuals involved in the case, we will generally image the device or make a forensic copy of the device, then provide that back to the investigator for them to peruse and to determine what's needed for their case.
If it is something with a great amount of information and they're seeking a great amount of information, do you go in and just pull specific things out, or do you actually image the entire device and turn it over to the detective then to narrow the scope of his investigation?
In every case, we image I shouldn't say, not in every case. In the majority of the cases, we'll image every device. If we have a situation, as an example, where we have a consent and we want to just get videos or text messages off a phone, we can do that. In that case, we're not usually seizing the device itself, but we have a consent to do it. And we do that out of timeliness for the person that's consenting, so that we don't keep them there for a couple of days while we image the device.
And when you image a device, is that also a timeliness consideration that you had there too, as far as imaging it versus trying to go in and sit down and look at the device either in a person's home or back at your unit?
Yeah, the thing about imaging the device is that when we create that copy of the device, we are not looking at the original device itself, and therefore we're not changing any data that's on the original device. So by making that image copy, we can go in and look at that without changing the result of either the image or the original device. So that for that reason, we will usually always image the entire device.
And the process for finding evidence on a computer versus a phone, does that differ somewhat?
Very much. If you look at mobile phones, the amount of memory that they have has increased recently, but the max you usually have is about 64 gigabytes, which is 64 million characters, okay? Whereas on a computer, you could be in the billions of characters, which would store what we now know as terabytes, which would store a lot more information, be a lot more difficult to go through all that data in a timely fashion.
And I'm going to turn your attention to the case of State of Georgia versus Justin Ross Harris. Are you familiar with this investigation, and were you involved in the investigation as far as HITECH was concerned?
Yes, I'm familiar with it, and yes, I was involved with it.
And were there a number of devices that you actually did some work on in this case pursuant to search warrants?
Yes, there were.
And Detective, I'm just going to go through, would it help you if we go through device per device, just to tell the judge what you did, and then we're going to start with, on the first type of either phone or computer, explain everything you do, and then we'll kind of summarize as we go to the next similar device, okay?
Sure. If I could, we really break it down into three parts, just so, and that's what I'll do with each one. First thing is we actually bring the device into our unit. We physically acquire the device. After that, we will photograph and record all the external information about the device, labels, tags, serial numbers that are on the device. We will, in the case of mobile devices, if there is a SIM card or a storage card in the device, we will remove those and analyze those separately. And in the case of a computer, we will remove the hard drive if it's possible to do that. So we physically acquire the device into our possession, document with pictures and recording of serial numbers, and then after that we do an acquisition. In the case of a computer, we do an acquisition where we attach the hard disk drive to a write blocker. That prevents any new data from being written onto the original suspect drive. Okay. We then make a copy of that onto another drive that we then use to do the forensics on. In the case of mobile devices, we acquire the data through it's really a parsing algorithm from Cellebrite that knows the format of pictures and directories, etc. And it actually goes into the phone and then extracts all that information onto a copy of it. So it doesn't so much make an exact image of the mobile phone as it collects all the information that's on that phone, including deleted data in some cases. Okay, so that's what I'll go through when I talk about these devices. Okay.
All right. So starting with that, let's start with what has been referred to here as an iPhone 5, which was the subject of, for the record, search warrant 14 SW0599 on June 18, 2014, and search warrant 14 SW0660, which a search warrant was executed or signed on the 27th of June 2014. What did you do initially on June 19th, 2014 regarding this iPhone 5 that was allegedly taken from the defendant's person?
We brought it into our possession. I just want to check here. The iPhone 5 was delivered to HITECH Crimes by Detective Murphy physically, so we made that exchange at the HITECH unit. So we received that from him, performed a physical examination, took pictures of the cell phone itself, did an acquisition of that using Cellebrite, and saved the extract onto our Cellebrite forensic workstation.
Now, as far as the overarching everything on that cell phone, did you do any kind of search of all of the stuff on the cell phone on that day?
No.
Okay. Now, were you asked to, pursuant to request from the detectives and pursuant to their search warrant, to do a limited search for certain things? Contacts with people from the day of June 18th, messages and contacts with his wife Leanne and things of that nature?
We were, let me just get to that point.
And just for the record, did you do supplemental reports in this case?
I did.
Okay, and would refresh your recollection of points to go back and look at some of these reports to be able to testify accurately to the judge?
That is why I have that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So on that iPhone 5, on June 20th, I provided hard copy reports from the iPhone 5 to Detective Murphy, specifically contact information for an Angie K, who had a screen name of Dark Phoenix 1982, also the call log from June 18th and 19th, and then call logs between that iPhone 5 and Leanna Harris. And that was a hard copy printed report.
And was that the limit of what you did as far as any type of search on the iPhone 5?
Yes, other than the acquisition of the entire phone, that's the only searching I did.
Okay. And regarding that, the acquisition of it, are you familiar with what happened, or if it was the actual copy of that image being provided to law enforcement? Or who actually created the disk of that actual image?
Well, I created the image
Okay.
when I acquired the cell phone, okay? So when I say I use Celebrite and save the image onto the Celebrite forensic workstation, that's a function I did. Then from that, I extracted the information that I just spoke about.
Okay. And did that end your involvement with that iPhone 5?
No, I'm sorry. On July 25th, I also created a CD with that same information that I just mentioned, and recorded that on a CD, made 3 copies, put it in evidence. I believe I provided 1 copy to a detective in the persons unit.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving along to the Dell Tower computer that is subject of search warrants 14 SW0605 from June 19, 2014, and search warrant 14 SW633 from the 24th of June, 2014. I think this will be a real quick one. What did you do with that computer?
I did a physical examination, took photographs, and I believe there was no computer, or no hard drive in that.
So there was nothing further done at that point, is that correct?
Right, there was no hard drive in that computer, so that was the extent of it.
Going to what has been called a Google Chromecast, referred to in search warrants 14 SW0606 on June 19, 2014, and search warrant 14 SW0634 from June 24, 2014. Tell the judge what you were able to, and if you were able to actually do anything with that device.
I researched the device and found that there was no forensic software available at that time to extract data from that device. And I believe that was probably true until a couple of months ago.
So at no point while you were with Cobb County Police were you able to obtain any information or have the capability to obtain any information?
True, that's correct.
All right. Moving to the Apple MacBook Pro that was taken from the residence at Wines Ridge pursuant to search warrants 14 SW0607 on June 19, 2014, and also pursuant to search warrant 14 SW0635 on June 24, 2014. Could you tell the judge what's the first thing you did and what date did you do that first act with the Apple MacBook Pro from the residence?
The first date was on June 20th. I retrieved that device from the Crimes Against Persons evidence room.
And did you do anything further on the 20th on that day?
No, I did not.
What is the next, well, I'll turn your attention, I think it's June 23rd of 2014.
Right.
Did you do something further with that actual computer on that day?
Yes, after I took the photographs, recorded serial numbers, then I removed the hard drive from that and did an image, performed a forensic image using a write blocker, and made a copy of that image to a hard drive that is kept in the high-tech crime unit.
And after you actually created that, on that day, did you actually do any type of search of what was on that device? Or was that a later date where you actually did some type of limited search?
That was a later date. So after I did the acquisition, that was on June 23rd. After that acquisition was done, I placed the hard drive back in the computer to be placed back into evidence. Following that, on June 26th, I provided 7 files from that MacBook on an optical disc to Detective Murphy. They were files that, just by their name, and I believe I did actually go in and look at some of them, but felt that they may be pertinent to the case. They were named Cooper's Week Chart, another one called My Personal Credo, another one Baby Names, then another one I Just Wanted to Let You Know, another document It's Time, another document See to Believe, and the 7th document Wish List.
And do these documents all appear to be related to the family situation, the child in this case, or I guess the marital situation between the defendant and Leanna Harris?
They all spoke to something that may have a personal interest inside of them. Since the deceased was named Cooper, I figured that was of interest to us.
And this was on the 26th of June, correct? So subsequent to that last search warrant on the 24th of June, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So after that, on June 27th, I made a copy. I also ran Internet Evidence Finder. Internet Evidence Finder is a software package that goes out and selects any information that accesses the internet. So it'll be searches, it'll be URL, Universal Resource Language connections, which is a website, and also any cookies that have been left by applications that have been visited and may have left cookies on the machine to say that that site was visited, so that the next time you go into it, there's less administrative processing to go on. So I ran Internet Evidence Finder and provided a copy of that also to Detective Murphy, and put 2 other copies on disk into evidence.
Okay. And finally, that was the 27th of June, correct? Okay. And moving finally to the August the 4th of 2014, did you do anything further?
It would have been July 25th.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, July 25th, I just created the 7 files I had given to Detective Murphy on June 26th. I created additional files so that I could store them in evidence, exact same copies. So I did that on July 25th.
And did you do anything further, or turn in anything, or create any analysis on August the 4th of 14 regarding this, files of note on the disk?
I probably did, and it's on another supplement.
Return your attention to, I believe it's page 259 of your supplemental report.
Okay. I have it here.
Okay.
Okay, on August 4th, I completed additional analysis on the Apple MacBook Pro. Also found 13 files of interest in that document. Would you like me to name them, or?
Let me ask you to summarize. Were those all related to the marital issue, the child, and things of that nature?
It appeared that they were. It had Leanna's name, Cooper's name on, again, wish list, baby names, things of that nature. My personal credo.
And were these all in the document section, was documents that were created, not web searches and things like that?
Some were documents. I have noticed one here is a sonogram video. The rest were documents. I also found 3 images of Cooper in a car seat transport, just to demonstrate the growth of the victim.
Okay.
I had 15 images of Cooper in a front-facing car seat, and he was in a front-facing car seat as late as 5/29 prior to his death, and then 20 images of Cooper in a rear-facing car seat, and he was in that car seat as late as 5/24/14 prior to his death. And my note here is it appears to have outgrown the seat.
And from looking at this computer, as far as the limited basis that you did in looking through the documents that you did this computer appear from everything to belong to Leanna Harris?
I do believe so.
All right, I'm going to turn your attention now to...
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Turn your attention to what we refer to here in court as the Lenovo T530, which is the subject of search warrants 14 SW608 on the 19th of June 2014 and 14 SW636 on the 24th of June 2014. On the 20th of June 2014, was that the first time you had any, I guess, interaction with that computer?
Yeah, when I picked it up from the person's ER evidence room back on June 20th was the first time I came across that. Then after that, on June 26th is when I ran Internet Evidence Finder against that.
Okay. And what day was it that you actually first acquired the image, and did you have to contact somebody specifically to be able to get on that computer?
Yes, the computer was BitLock encrypted, which means it's BitLocked at the operating system level, meaning that the entire disk is encrypted. The registered owner of that computer was Home Depot.
So Home Depot was the owner of this computer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and did you contact, or was Home Depot contacted to be able to get permission to go into that computer?
Yes, I did make contact with them, asked permission, also asked if they could provide the BitLocker encryption key, which they did, at which time I was able to unlock the computer and do the acquisition.
And after doing the acquisition, what day was that on?
That was on 6/25.
Okay. And then you said you ran the Internet Evidence Finder later, correct?
Right, I ran that on 6/27.
Okay.
And also on 6/26, I found 5 links to social media URL Reddit, REDDIT, that link to content titled child free, one word.
And so, getting to that now, on the 26th, after that 24th search warrant, did you do a limited search regarding, I guess, web links involving children and things of that nature?
Yes. Yes.
And based upon that limited search, you found these things involving child free?
Correct.
Okay. Now, what did you do based upon gaining that information?
Well, I placed that information on optical disc and provided that to Detective Murphy for his further investigation.
Now I'm going to turn your attention to a My Passport external hard drive, which is the subject of search warrant 14 SW0654 from June 27, 2014. Okay. What was the first day that you actually, I guess, started on this one and acquired an image from the external hard drive?
Okay, let me just find that search warrant on my...
Okay.
Okay, again, the first contact would have been on June 20th when I retrieved it from the evidence room in persons unit. Then on July 8th, I actually acquired an image of that. Prior to that, I did the physical examination, took pictures, but on July 8th, I actually acquired a digital image of that device.
And on the 4th of August 2014, did you do a forensic analysis or create a forensic analysis of the external hard drive?
I did.
Okay, and what did you do on that occasion? What day? I think August 4th, 2014.
Yes, I did. On that date, I found 15 files of interest on that passport drive. One was some of them, quite a few of the files seemed to be related to law enforcement.
Did you also locate any involving Alabama child restraint laws?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's called Alabama, the file is Alabama Child Restraint Law 2006 LE.
Okay. Did you find anything other about, I guess, Mr. Harris? Did you know anything about his background or his job or business or employment?
I had heard, and it wasn't in a conversation, it may have been overheard, but I heard that he had some involvement with law enforcement previously in a career capacity.
I'm going to turn your attention now to, I guess, a SanDisk. That'd be a thumb drive, flash drive, subject of search warrant 14 SW0653.
Okay, yeah, that's a SanDisk, that's a USB thumb drive.
And regarding that search warrant that was issued on the 27th of June 2014, did you acquire an image of what was on that?
I did. It was a 32 gigabyte thumb drive, and I acquired that on July 7th,
2014?
2014, yes.
And did you do any type of search on that?
I did not.
And moving along to an SD card, which is the subject of search warrant 14 SW655, issued on the 27th of June 2014. Did you also acquire an image of the evidence, if there was any, on that
Yes,
SD card?
on July 7th, 2014.
And did you,
And
so go ahead.
I did no searches on that.
Now, there are a couple of devices that actually the evidence was acquired from and that neither you nor the other high-tech employees did any kind of search on as well?
Yes, let's see.
And I'll turn your attention first. Were you familiar with an iPhone 4 subject of search warrants 14 SW0611 and 14 SW0639?
Yeah, that acquisition was performed by Detective Smith.
Okay. Going to the Apple MacBook that was located in the defendant's vehicle, subject to search warrants 14 SW0609 and search warrant 14 SW0637. That Apple MacBook, did another detective actually acquire the image on
Yes.
that computer?
Detective Colson did that.
Okay. And I think the other one that you did not do any work on, so to speak,
Was the-
the iPad?
The Apple iPad was done also by Detective Smith.
Okay, and just for the record, that's 14 SW0610 and 14 SW063A, correct, Detective?
On the iPad?
Yes, sir.
610 and 638, yes.
Great. Were there also some DVD-Rs that were located?
There were.
Okay.
I did look at those, and I labeled them 1 through 8.
Okay, and pursuant to search warrants 14 SW0656, what day did you acquire that?
Those you don't acquire because by
Okay.
their nature, they're right protected.
Okay.
But I viewed those on July 7th, 2014.
Okay. And did you view anything of note?
I did not.
And finally, as far as the devices I believe you were involved with, Lenovo 510 laptop on the 29th, or excuse me, not 29th, got it listed as search warrant 29, search warrant 14 SW0816, executed on the 14th of August 2014. Did you actually perform any analysis or perform any job on that laptop starting on September 25th, I believe, or 26th, 2014?
You're referring to the Apple MacBook Pro and the...
No, I'm sorry, the subsequent Lenovo 510.
Oh, okay.
It was obtained later, I guess actually after the initial wave of the investigation.
Right, I did perform the image and the forensic analysis on that.
And did you do any type of search of that, or did you turn the disk over to the detectives as well?
Give me 1 second, and I'll check. Okay, I received a request to do forensics on that on August 19th. And on August 26th of 2014, I retrieved that device from the person's evidence room. On August 27th, I acquired a copy of that drive, a copy of that system. And again, I found that it was, I'm sorry, I didn't I was unable to make an image because it was Microsoft BitLock as well. Again, I contacted Home Depot. They gave me the encryption key. I unencrypted it, was able to make an image of it.
So again, that was property of Home Depot.
Yes, that was.
Now, other than the ones we talked about, did you do any further analysis on any other devices in this case that you can recall?
Not that I recall, no.
And other than we talked about, did you do any search of anything unless you were directed by the detectives in this case?
I did not.
Have a second, Judge. That's all I have.
Captain Yeager, I have a few questions for you. Please don't presume that I have any computer literacy, and words I use may not necessarily mean the same thing that they mean to you, so if you have any question about it, please don't hesitate to correct me, okay?
Sure.
All right. Let's start with the iPhone 5. I think it's the first thing that y'all mentioned. When you performed the acquisition, you used the Celebrite device in order to acquire the image of that, is that correct?
That's correct.
And are there multiple levels of analysis that one of these devices can perform when taking an extraction?
Yeah, it depends on the physical phone and the operating system level that's on that phone, the software that's on that phone, and whether or not the phone is locked or unlocked.
All right.
makes a determination as to how you can acquire it.
And am I correct, and my memory serves me, that there's 3 different levels of extraction one could possibly do on a device of this nature?
There's, you could consider them 3. There's a logical, something called an advanced logical, and then a physical.
And the difference between these 3 being the levels or amount of information you would get performed, or information you would get when you perform each of these analyses, correct?
Yes,
All right. And which one is the lowest?
logical.
All right. And then next, is that advanced logical?
Advanced logical.
And then physical.
And there's really a 4th one in there, it's called file system, which is kind of on par with advanced logical. And that depends on whether it's an iPhone or a Android phone.
I got you.
And then physical would be the highest level.
All right. And so you can choose which one of these levels that you want to use up to the point of what the device will allow you to extract from, correct?
You don't always get a choice because the device, the software itself understands its own limitations.
Okay.
And what it does is when you attach the phone, it interrogates the phone, determines the operating system, the physical hardware, determines whether it's locked or not, and then it will present the types of images that it can perform itself.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And this particular device, the iPhone 5, would it allow for the highest level of physical extraction?
No, it provided for advanced logical.
Advanced logical. Which, does that mean also by definition it could have just had a logical extraction if you so chose?
It may have, but we always would go with the highest level.
All right. And you do that because you want to get as much information out of that device as possible, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. And as you performed this acquisition, you then indicated that subsequently to getting the acquisition, which I believe you said you did on June the 19th,
Yes, June 19th.
is that the same day that you were provided the device and the search warrant, if you recall?
Yeah, let me see. I believe that device was brought to me by, I believe, Detective Murphy. Yes, on 6/19, he provided me that device directly, and I signed the property sheet to accept it. The search warrant was dated 6/18 that he provided to me at that time.
So you were actually provided the search warrant itself, or a copy of it, correct?
Yes, and that's part of our process, is that before we even do that, we want to be sure that we have a proper search warrant
Okay.
before we start analyzing devices.
And so the search warrant that you had at that point in time would have been do you know what number that was?
It's 14 SW 0599.
And other than the search warrant and the device itself, would you be provided any other documentation which sets out what it is you're supposed to do with it?
We're provided what we call a high-tech request, and it's just a form so that we can provide to officers so that they can submit that request to us without having to make personal contact and get the device into the queue to be processed.
All right. And so does that form then, does it not give you any direction at all as to what to be looking for?
It may, I can tell you, on this one, they provided the PIN code to enter the phone and a request for data, all data on the phone.
And is that something that's handwritten out on the form?
It's a typed form. Well, the code is handwritten, probably because I got that verbally from Detective Murphy, and then all data is typed.
Do you have that with you by chance?
I do.
May I approach you with the charge? Just a moment. this a form that would have come with the device to you, or one that you fill out after you've gotten the device?
That was probably either emailed or hand-carried over to me.
That has got some handwritten notes on there. Was that indicative of what you put on there, or what would have already been on?
Yeah, if they're handwritten, it's indicative of what was communicated to me verbally.
Okay, very good. Now, when there's a code on there, does that code mean something specific to you and to your unit as far as what you're to do with the device?
No, that code is just an unlock code for the phone.
I got you.
Okay, so it's equivalent of a PIN or a swipe code for a phone.
I got you. But you said that you would, the request is that you get all the information from the phone that you can, correct?
Right.
And is that is generally what you're doing in every device, or are there certain devices that say, just pull this and just pull that, or how do you know you're supposed to get all the information?
Well, when we acquire a phone, we get all the information, okay? Unless, as I had mentioned earlier, we're trying to accommodate somebody who's assisting us.
Right.
And because it does take a while, it could take anywhere from 1 hour to we've done them overnight at times because of the size of the phones.
All right.
Okay?
So as to this particular device, then, you basically are getting every bit of information on that device that you can possibly get, given the technology you've got in front of you, correct?
Right. And it's the same information, whether it says all data or just messages. We would also acquire the phone. And the reason we would do that is because that becomes evidence. It's a copy of what's on the phone. If for any reason the original evidence becomes disabled, lost, whatever, we also have an image of what was on that phone.
Very good. Do you mind if we make a copy of this at some point in time?
Mr. Dalton.
We'll do it right now. So before we
Okay.
go back. Two, please. All right. And in your performing that extraction of this phone, then, is it fair to say that you were extracting all the information and the search warrant itself was not, it doesn't provide any sort of limitation to you as far as what you're going to get? It's really the technology that you have that gets what you can get.
Right, well, the search warrant, based on the crime that's described in the search warrant, will determine what we're going to go after. You know, if it's a harassing communications, we're obviously going to go after contact lists and messages and things of that nature.
But in your extracting of the phone and getting all information, you don't put it, there's no limitation on your device to only get evidence of child cruelty or homicide, correct? You get all the information, regardless of what it is, correct?
Well, because the evidence of that crime it may not be restricted to one type of file or document or folder.
And bottom line is, you don't have anything that limits you to guide you as to what that information might be. You just want to get it all so you can look at it, correct?
Well, the limitation is what the crime is, and the crime was cruelty to children. So that could include messages, it could include pictures, it could include documents, could include videos, could be various and sundry artifacts that are on the phone.
Is there anything on an iPhone 5 that you know of that it would not include, potentially?
That what would not include?
That the looking for cruelty to a child, first degree, that you would automatically eliminate that as something you'd want to get to look at?
Not that I can think of offhand.
All right. And when you then talked about providing some files to a detective, I believe, again, this is page 254 maybe of your report. You created a forensic report of 7 files. I'm sorry, that's the MacBook Pro, I apologize. Of this phone device, you provided contact info of an Angie K.
Right.
call log from June 18th and 19th, and then a call log of phone calls between Leanna Harris and Justin Harris's phone numbers.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
Now, in order to provide that contact information, first of all, with the first one, this Angie K, where did you search in order to get that information?
The phone contacts.
Okay. How exactly did you go about doing that?
More than likely, I either used Dark Phoenix or Angie as a search criteria and located the contact that way.
And meaning that you would use that term and type it into your computer to search for that?
Yes.
All right. And do you remember where you got that piece of information to search for it?
The Angie K,
Yes, sir.
from one of the detectives on the case.
Do you know which detective that was?
I don't, no.
Okay. You recall any conversation with Detective Murphy about that when he brought the phone to you?
I don't.
Okay. And you recall, did you know who the lead detective was in the
Yes.
case at that time?
I knew Detective Stoddard was the lead.
Do you recall him communicating to you to look specifically for that Angie K?
I don't recall which detective it was.
But you do know it was some detective at the Cobb County Police Department,
Correct.
correct? All right. And when your technology allows you to plug in some sort of search term and then it searches the entire phone to see if that term's anywhere in there, is that correct? And again, I may be oversimplifying it, and please clear it up if I am.
You usually have to be within a particular, within a particular folder. You need to be in contacts, or you need to be in call logs, or you need to be in messages. You need to be in some specific thing to look for that.
Okay.
Okay, so in this case, I looked in contacts and then typed in, I was in the file contacts, then
Right.
typed in Angie K. The other way to do that is just scroll through all the contacts until I find Angie K.
All right. And the reason you were looking in the contacts folder is because the information provided to you was that may be a contact person we want to look into?
Yeah, it was specifically a contact for a KIK message, KIK message.
All right. And so the KIK message, is that something that you had located or something that had been brought to your attention to be looking for as well?
Something was brought to my attention
All right. Would that have been from the same detective?
from one of the detectives, right?
Okay. And this KIK, and I'll refer to it as KIK.
Yep.
Do you know what that refers to?
Yeah, KIK is a messaging system similar to iMessages or text messaging. It's just a private messaging system that's used mostly by teenagers and people younger than me.
Okay. And so in your searching in the phone, you didn't look for a KIK app or anything of that nature. You just went directly to the contacts trying to locate who this Angie K was.
Right.
All right. All right. And then the call log with 16 entries for June 18th and June 19th. It was that simple. Well, you tell me, how did you go about getting that?
Just do
information?
a search on date, say all calls with 0618 in the date or 0619 in the date, and they all come back
All right.
as a list.
In other words, you can type in 618 to 619 of 2014, presumably in this
Right.
case.
Yes.
And it'll just give you a list. In that list that you get, what information does it provide to you? Just phone numbers or names?
It provides, well, obviously it provides dates and times that the calls occurred. It shows the originating and terminating phone numbers. Well, it shows the far end phone number that this phone is speaking with.
Okay.
And if there's a contact associated with that phone number, that will be listed in that call log as well.
Okay. All right. And was this also something that you had been asked by some detective specifically to draw out, or is it just something on your own you decided to?
No, that was a request by the investigating detectives.
Okay. And then last thing you provided initially was call log of calls between this device and Leanna Harris.
Correct.
Did you simply type in Leanna Harris?
I had her phone number, and
Okay.
I typed that in and it gave me all calls to or from that phone.
And was that something that you were searching specifically because you felt like that was evidence of child cruelty? Was that something that someone had asked you to look for?
That was a request of the investigating detectives.
And was that the extent of your involvement with that iPhone?
I do believe that was, let me just check one thing. I believe there was one other CD that was provided that had all the information on that phone. Let me just check. I believe that was it.
All right. And were you looking through this device with anyone else at that time, or that would be something you'd be doing totally on your own?
I don't recall. There are occasions when, the investigating detective will come in, we'll sit down with them. And the reason we'll sit down at the equipment in the high-tech crimes unit is because we build the machines to be large, high-powered servers because they're dealing with so much data at one time that if they tried to run them on a county desktop computer, they'd be there for days.
Gotcha. And certainly you would not have someone who is not a certified law enforcement officer looking at this with you, correct?
No.
All right, very good. And was there ever a request made of you to look on this phone for any research regarding videos of deaths in vehicles?
On this phone?
Yes, sir.
I know that subsequent search warrants to the 26th all discussed information about videos in that regard.
Okay. On this phone particularly, though, were you asked it all to look for any videos or news reports regarding deaths in vehicles?
Now, since we had extracted all of the data from the phone, I then turned that over to the investigating detective for them to peruse that
I got it.
if they had a need for any other information.
Very good. Thank you. As to the Dell 9200, did I understand that once you got the device, you learned that it had no hard drive in it?
That's correct.
So it was basically just a box?
Yes. I did take pictures of it that were in the forensic report.
Did you question anybody as to, did somebody take the hard drive, or just leave it at that?
No, I didn't, nor did we really question it. There are many occasions when we get computers in that don't have hard drives. There are times we get computers in that have cockroaches and cobwebs in them too. And that's just the nature. Some people just hang on to things and can't get rid of them.
I got you.
So we didn't, because we had so much other digital evidence, we didn't think a whole lot about that.
Cellbrite doesn't make anything to hook up with cockroaches and cobwebs, get information, I take it?
No.
All right. All right. As to the Google Chromecast device, did you know what that was when you got it?
I had seen them, I didn't know specifically, and I did do research on the internet to find out what it is. It's basically a broadcast device to broadcast from a mobile device to your television. However, it has storage on it, so it could be, if somebody decided to wipe it or initialize it, it could be used for storage.
Okay. And this research that you did to figure out what it is, how long did that take you to do that?
5-minute Google search, read it.
Thank you. And at that point in time, there was no known storage capability of this sort of device, correct?
Right, we were aware of none. I may have even, and not documented, but I may have even hooked it up to a right blocker and tried to acquire it.
Okay.
If I did, I didn't document it or was unsuccessful.
To your knowledge, has there been any subsequent attempt to do any extraction or seeing if there's any electronic storage capability of it at this time?
By
Right,
the police
right.
department?
Yes, sir.
There has, as far as I know, no.
Okay. All right, the Apple MacBook Pro, you made a ghost image and indicated that there were 7 files that you took from there. Again, asked you that, were you given similarly a request form, high-tech request form, submission form for that device?
Yes.
This is
Let's see.
pursuant to search warrant 0635, I believe it is.
I have a request form that's got 6 devices on it. 6 or 7, let's see.
You mind if I look at that again, please, sir? Mike, we're going to make a copy of this, so we can discuss it, please, sir.
Yeah.
2 copies, please. I'm sorry, Judge, I probably asked you that, but
Didn't mean to answer for you, Judge.
you searched this device pursuant to search warrant, what number? So I think I may be getting that myself a little bit.
We're on the MacBook Pro.
MacBook Pro, yes, sir.
That's 0607 and 635.
And when you pulled it out on June or made the image on 6/23, the only search warrant you had at that time was 0607, correct? Because the other one had not been issued until the following day.
Correct, and the crimes listed on there were cruelty to children first degree and homicide murder.
Very good. So you made a ghost image of that device. Again, was that on a Celebrite device or something else?
That was on Encase.
In case. And what type of extraction was performed? What level?
It was a bit-for-bit. There's not a relationship between what you do on mobile devices and what you do on computers, okay?
Okay.
On computers, you're either pulling files or you're making a bit-for-bit copy.
Okay. In layman's terms, you're getting everything off that computer,
Go
correct?
from 0 to 3 billion, or however many characters there are on the disk.
Very good.
Thank you.
And would you have been provided a copy of that search warrant as well? The 0605?
0607?
I'm sorry, you're correct, 0607.
Yes.
On this high-tech submission form, it actually says search warrant 0605, is that correct?
Yeah, because those apply to some other devices. That form is not necessarily all-inclusive.
Right.
The reason being is we're a customer-oriented unit, okay? And that is not, these supplemental reports, property control records, those are things that show chain of custody and record what we've done. This is essentially a means for officers or detectives to get information to us as quickly as possible so that we can begin the process of, number one, get them in the queue, and number two, begin the process of doing the forensics on the devices, depending on the urgency of the crime involved.
And I may have misspoke, and you please correct me if my correction's not right. It actually says 14 SW 0605 through 0611. Is that what?
Okay.
In other words, that's, in my notes, I've been just doing 0611 as a particular warrant, but does this indicate to you this is a series of search warrants that this request is regarding? You've had issues?
I don't know what their intent was when they wrote it,
Okay,
but before we did that, we got the search warrant for the individual device.
fair enough, okay. And it would have been a search warrant 14 SW 0605 through 0611. It was nothing beyond that to your knowledge, wasn't it?
I don't even know that I can say yes to that
What you do
question.
know is on June 23rd when you took the image of it, correct?
Yes, I was based that on search warrant 0607.
Very good, very good. All right. And once you made that image, you then indicated that you created a report of 7 files from this device, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. And I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly that what you did was you retrieved from this device, from your ghost image, 7 files that you then turned over to the detectives.
That's correct.
All right. Now, in searching for what files did you turn, well, let me ask you this. Were there more than 7 files within that device?
Absolutely.
All right. Hundreds, if not thousands?
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but a lot.
Fair enough. But you chose these 7 out of all the, however many files there were, to provide to the detective, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And in your choosing these 7, were you directed in any way as to how to make that determination?
No, none other than the crimes that were involved, and that was it.
And that being, as you were informed at that time, was homicide, murder, and cruelty to child, first-degree felony, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. And with regards to, I think you indicated, the first one was named Cooper's weak charge.
Correct.
Because the deceased name was Cooper, you felt like that might be relevant, correct?
That's correct.
And the next one you pulled was My Personal Credo, correct?
Correct.
And was there something about that title that made you think that had something to do with homicide or cruelty to a child?
In crimes in the past, there is sometimes a manifesto or a credo or a note, something to the effect, and the title itself jumped out at me, so I just made a copy of that file.
And did you actually open the file to see what it was before you made a copy of it?
You know, I believe I opened all these files and looked at them. I didn't make note either permanently as to whether or not they were relevant, but the first thing that drew me to them was the names or the titles.
Right. And did you open up other files that you looked at and ultimately decided they weren't relevant, and so you didn't make them part of this list?
I may have. I don't know.
And it's possible that there were another 7 files or more or less that you looked at.
That's very possible, yes.
All right. And with regard to the next one was baby names,
Correct.
which a DOCX file, using the prefix, I believe is that the right term for that?
Yeah, that's a
Type of
document, that's extension, right? That's a Word document.
All right. And in your mind, you read that to be related to homicide or cruelty to a child, correct?
Again, it may be an indication of why the actions were taken.
Okay. And because someone has baby names, or is it because something you read when you opened the file that made you think it might be related?
Well, I noticed that they were all female names, and the deceased was a male, so.
Then the next document extension, I just wanted to let you know, again, was that something you opened up and read to see what its content was before providing it, or you just thought that title would somehow meet these crimes.
Well, I believe I opened all of these and looked at them, okay? As to,
Before you chose them to give to the detective?
I chose these based on the titles
Okay,
and may have further selected them based on the content.
okay,
Okay.
very good. Then the next one was labeled It's Time, correct?
Correct.
And then See to Believe,
Correct.
another document, and then Wish List.
Correct.
All right. And do you have independent recollection? Did you in fact have several other files that you thought might be related, and then once you looked at them, decided, and that doesn't look like anything of importance to provide?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. Do you recall if there were more than these 7 documents or items that you actually looked at, that initially maybe their names caught your eye and thought they were relevant, but then upon looking at the content decided, that doesn't look like it's important?
I don't recall.
Okay. It's possible you just don't know for sure. And it's possible
Correct.
you did.
Right.
Very good. Right. Then on June 27th, you then ran an internet analysis on this to find internet usage,
Correct.
correct? And explain to us, what does that mean, this IEF? What is that exactly?
That's short for Internet Evidence Finder.
Yes, sir.
And what that does is it can operate against mobile devices or computers.
Yes, sir.
And it will go in and access information that is relevant to browsers or any internet access. So IP addresses, URL addresses, cookies, which are left by applications that or websites that you visited to reduce the admin time the next time you go to it, as well as any searches that are done.
So this device is actually going to allow you to go in and get every internet search that was done on this device, correct?
Mhm.
As well as IP address information? Is that of that particular device or of other IPs that it says communicated with?
It depends on the application or the website that they've gone to as to how much or how little information is developed. However, there's the way it finds these things is because it has a format, just like a car has a label, an emblem on it, so you know a Chevy from a Ford.
Okay.
Well, internet artifacts have labels on them to say that they're internet artifacts, as do other things like documents, spreadsheets, and pictures.
All right.
Okay.
And would that, would there be any limitation on what internet usage that this would track for you?
No, it would track everything that it could find. Now, understand too that this is a piece of software, and this piece of software evolves, okay? Just like, say your internet connection at home, that evolves, it gets better, it gets faster.
Sure.
You have more capabilities. Same thing with your cable TV, you get more capabilities. The same thing with Internet Evidence Finder, or with Cellebrite, or with Encase in analyzing these devices. Those evolve, and for that reason, we always put what release of the software that we're using.
Very good.
Okay?
And it's fair to say that Encase has been revised since you did this?
And Internet Evidence Finder as
And
well.
yeah.
And I'm sure all of them have. It's been almost a year now.
Fair enough. Once you got the internet information, did you perform any searching of that internet information?
No, I did not.
Right.
I provided a copy of that CD, that optical disc, to Detective Murphy, and put others in, 2 other copies into evidence.
Now, when you received this examination submission form, it indicated on the form that the parents of the deceased child made statements that they have researched in-car deaths over the internet. You recall that?
Yes.
And did that cause you to do any particular searching of this device, looking for that, evidence of that?
No, quite honestly, with the amount of the devices that we had and the volume of data that we're processing, just in the devices that I processed over 1.5 terabytes of data and over 5 million files.
Wow.
Okay, so unless there was something that they wanted me to look for specifically that I could do more expeditiously because of the speed of the machine that I was working on versus the investigating detectives, I would do that, but wasn't sitting down and just browsing for hours through the devices.
Very good. All right. But the IEF analysis that was performed, all of this internet information, I think y'all said also had some cookies and things that are used on someone's internet browser, correct?
Right, correct.
And when we talk about cookies, just so we're clear for the record, and really more so I will understand it, does this include passwords and quick bookmarks and things of that nature, or no?
Well, those could be included as other artifacts, but cookies are something separate. Okay?
All right.
Passwords more than likely wouldn't be involved
Okay.
in an Internet Evidence Finder.
Okay. When you say cookies, what are you referring to?
If I go to JCPenney's website, as an example, and I'm shopping, okay, and I have some things that I've looked at, you know, my wife said look at bed sheets and look at towels and look at china. Well, that application, that website will then place a file on my computer
Right.
that says, I visited here before, and if it, to the extent that it can, maybe say the things that I looked at. So the next time I sign on, rather than having to go searching for towels, it pops up with towels based on that cookie that's stored on my computer. And it's kind of a silly technical name, but...
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
But ultimately, it basically is a way in which computers get a lot of information about our personal habits and things we do day to day, correct?
Correct.
And that could also include medical searching that we may do, medical information?
Stored on your computer?
Right.
No.
Okay. So if I search something medically in my computer, that would not be stored? Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, as to whether or not you would get a cookie about your medical information, I seriously doubt that.
About what I've searched online? Like if I go to WebMD and start looking up plantar fasciitis because my feet hurt?
Well, plantar fasciitis, because you searched on that,
Right.
would be in this file.
Very well. And any searches I may have made regarding my political affiliations, might those also be captured?
Right.
And anything that I've searched regarding any other personal social groups, social organizations, basically anything I'm searching could have a cookie attached to it that this would grab hold of, correct?
Well, cookies are just one part of that, okay? Search terms are separate from cookies, okay? Cookies indicate sites that you visited, if that site leaves a cookie.
Right.
Search terms are things that you actually searched, put in the line that says Google search,
Sure.
and then hit enter, okay?
And this captures both of those. The IEF would capture both.
Both the cookies and the search terms, as well as the site, the URL of the website address that you actually went to.
Okay, very good. All right. And once you provided that disk of the Internet information to Detective Murphy, I think you indicated, and then on August the 4th, you did another analysis with 13, that produced 13 files.
Correct.
See if I can locate that. Do you have your report where you're indicating that that
I do.
was done?
Mhm.
What number is that in the bottom right-hand corner, please, sir?
I'm sorry, I have these just as individual supplements, I don't have the entire...
Okay. I think I just had it. And he's, oh, I see. All right. This then included the same items in the list of 7 that you had previously, correct? Plus 6 additional?
No, they aren't all the ones that were in the original 7.
All right.
Cooper's week chart was in there, wish list was in there,
Baby names?
baby names was in there. I just wanted to let you know, it's time, see to believe. I think the only one, my personal credo is in there, yes. So I do believe all 7 of those are in that 13.
All right. And then in addition, you've added 11 weeks, Leanna's baby shower address list, church shower address list, KA note, and referrals, correct?
Correct. And I think Leanna resume is also added.
Okay, I apologize if I missed that one. And those items, again, the only reason that those are separated out is because you chose to look at them and decide that that's something that you wanted to bring to the detective's attention, correct?
Correct.
Right. And are those, again, items that you would have opened up and looked at the content of those?
Yeah, if you note, I have some comments after some of those.
I was going to ask you that. There's a dash and then some other typing. Those are things that you provided, not what was on the
Correct.
device itself. Very good. All right. And included in that, a couple of these are just contacts of people who know the family, correct?
Right, 2 of those were.
All right. And once you turn that over to Detective Murphy, was that the extent of your involvement with that Apple MacBook Pro, to your knowledge?
Yes, it was. There were also other things on there that are something besides those 13 files.
Okay. Meaning other things, well, there's tons of information on there, but are you saying there's other things that you...
That I selected specifically.
Okay. All right. And what was that?
I had stated this earlier, 3 images of Cooper in a car seat transport,
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
15 images of Cooper in a front-facing car seat, 20 images of Cooper in a rear-facing car seat, 8 identifying PC ownership images, meaning whoever the owner of the computer is.
And, I'm sorry, say that again.
There's 8 images that identify the owner of the
Oh,
PC.
8 images. Okay, I'm sorry.
They identify the owner of the PC. And then 2 images of the suspect with
All the images, see what they were? Or did you?
I don't recall. Like I say, I can't, from this report, I can't tell you where I selected those images from,
Okay.
but more than likely, I went to his My Pictures file and got them out of there.
All right. And when you said you found 8 images that identify the owner of the computer, did you recognize who that was in those pictures?
I don't, without looking at the forensic report.
Okay. How were you able to determine that that's identifying the owner?
Oh, let's see. I don't recall without seeing the images, quite honestly.
Okay. Well, is it... for some reason, you separated
Yeah.
this definition that is the owner images, that's your definition, correct?
Correct.
All right. In other words, the computer doesn't say owner of computer.
No, it doesn't go neon and say this is the owner.
Okay. Do you remember if it was a male or a female?
I don't.
Okay, all right. But you do recall 2 pictures of Mr. Harris with a sticky note in his head saying, "Good morning, I heart you, Cooper, and I miss you," something of that nature?
Yes. Mhm.
How far doing your examination.
I've got a ways to go, Judge. We're on device number 3
That's no problem.
of 7, I think.
That's no problem. It's time for break, though.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's take a recess until about 25.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't let my kindness confuse you.
I won't.
Because it's so selfish.